Are you looking to really accelerate your personal growth? If so, go to my website and download the free Abundance Benchmark. It's going to give you some amazing feedback on where you're stuck in life. Again, it's totally free, and you can grab yours right now at MatthewBivens.com. Welcome to Having It All. My name is Matthew Bivens, and each week I bring you conversations and insights that explore the question, what does having it all mean to you? My goal is to leave you with stories you can relate to and messages you can take action on so that you can create an abundant, loving life. I am so excited that you're here to hang out with me today. Now, let's jump right into this episode. Today's episode is going to be another epic challenge. Now, these epic challenges I am incredibly excited to bring to you because I have been a part of a weekly accountability group for over 2, maybe even getting close to 3 years now. And the process of an epic challenge is something that we do every single week. And I have seen and experienced massive breakthrough by opening up in the areas of my life that I'm stuck in, as well as seeing other people do the same and receive feedback. So that's what we're doing in today's show. And I am incredibly excited to welcome a very good friend of mine, Anthony Strayhorn, to the show. Anthony, how are you being today?
I am being peaceful. I'm being present, and I'm being open.
Awesome, man. Oh, I love it. I love it. So I appreciate you coming on and being willing to share your epic challenge. We chatted about it before I hit record, and I think that your challenge is going to resonate with a lot of people because your challenge has to do with self-deprecation and victimhood and how to handle that. So I'm super excited to get into it. So again, man, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Tell us real quick in 30 seconds a little bit about yourself, what you do, and just so that the folks listening can just get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah, my name's Anthony Strayhorn, and I'm a personal trainer and balanced lifestyle coach at the Already Balanced Games. Previous to that, I was part of the corporate world experience as a design engineer. I worked 7 years in corporate America and completed that experience in 2012 when I just finally was convicted enough to just step out of that world and step into something different where I could be my own boss and have a work-life balance that was sustainable for me. And from that, I just continued to just explore those areas of my life I was inspired by, which were health and fitness and other aspects of wellness. And today I'm a trainer and a lifestyle coach, and that's what I do. That's most recent bio information I can give you regarding me. I can go into more depth, but yeah, that's me right now.
No, it's perfect. It just gives the listener an opportunity to get to know who they are hearing and who they're about to hear from. And you and I have been friends for a number of years, and you are my personal trainer. You're my coach, and I've been incredibly inspired by you in a lot of ways, particularly how you handle circumstances. How the way that you handle the things that life throws at you has been inspiring because you're just very cool, you're very calm, very centered and peaceful, just like you said you were being at the top of the show. So that's just how I've experienced you. And in this epic challenge of yours, I imagine we're going to hear some of the same stuff. So before we jump into hearing about your epic challenge, I want to set the context for the new listener out there. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And an epic challenge is something, a bit of a new series that we're doing on the show. And an epic challenge is really an area in your life in which you are stuck. So you're stuck in your understanding, you're stuck in your ability to create a new experience for yourself, and as a result, you continue to have breakdowns. So you keep hitting your head against the wall. You truly want to experience something different, but you just don't know how. And so in an epic challenge, you seek out feedback. You get feedback from people who can give you some outside perspective. They can help, get you out of your own head so that you can, as they say, see the forest for the trees and really begin to make shift and transformation in your life. And epic challenges can occur in any area of life. No holds barred. So family, school, sex, money, religion, children, work, all of that stuff. There are nothing is off limits with an epic challenge. And the reason why it's relevant to this show is because, we all get stuck from time to time in things. We're just human. But when we're stuck in, let's say, for example, a way of thinking or a belief or a habit that doesn't support us, that doesn't move us forward, then we begin to experience life in a scarce or a fearful way. And that's the opposite of having it all. Because if you remember, ALL stands for abundant, loving life. So by acknowledging our epic challenges, having the courage to face them, and inviting others to hold us accountable to facing them, we open ourselves up to abundance and love in all areas of life. And that's why we're doing epic challenges on this show, and that's why we've got Anthony Strayhorn here. So, Anthony, let's go ahead and jump into your epic challenge. And can you begin simply by describing what your current epic challenge is?
Yes, currently my epic challenge right now is just understanding how I can just show up powerfully in the presence of people who are consistently self-deprecating, self-loathing, and those are just, on average, subscribe to this victimness in life. They subscribe to a victimness consciousness, and a lot of that comes into my experiences in life from me being a trainer and, coaching people around how to get past their limiting beliefs, how to just really get a grasp and understanding their personal power so that they can become more empowered on a day-to-day basis. So, that's it in a nutshell, and it goes further. The rabbit hole goes deeper, obviously. So that's that.
Okay. So what I heard was how can you show up powerfully in the presence of people in your life who are self-deprecating and just overall subscribe to a victimhood mentality?
Exactly. Yeah,
so
that's exactly it.
What do you mean by show up? Like I want to define the word show up and powerfully. What do you mean by those two words?
Yeah, when I say show up, this is how they present themselves to the world. How they present themselves to their peers, their family, their friends. Just in life in general. A lot of times I can tell real quick if someone's living out of a victim's consciousness just by their conversations that they have with themselves, others in life. I can look at how they relate to money, how they relate to circumstances happening, things that they can control and not control. And then from there, I can see whether or not that's coming from a place of power or not, just by understanding where their level of health is, because part of being a trainer is being able to assess where my different clients' health are at. And it's, if their health is starting to ebb or, go into a state of depression, then there's something that I look for that gives me an idea or some type of clue to be able to say, okay, let's see where we might be leaking some personal power here. And it's based on usually a thought that precedes, an emotion and then this perspective and then a habit and, all the other things that go along in that maxim. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, that tells me like for them, like how they can again, I don't want to use the word show up to define show up, but how they can respond to things in life and how they can be. But for you, I guess the question is, you say, how can I show up? How can you show up powerfully? Mm-hmm. So is that more of like a response? Like how can you respond when somebody is being self-deprecating or being a victim? Is that like, are you challenged with the way that you respond to them?
Yes, because sometimes, part of me doesn't want to just be water in the sense that I want to just hold their hand and kind of coddle them or just kind of be a little passive, because, I understand that part of coaching and training is not necessarily always verbally saying things to people or putting people through actions or, orchestrating this physical experience, but sometimes it's just sitting there and listening.
Yeah.
But also sometimes I feel like just doing that sometimes just gives them an opt out to kind of just like, not do anything. So I'm trying to find that balance between being a little bit more fiery with them and like a little bit more like a little bit more blunt with, what I really want to say. And I think a lot of it has to do with just wanting to still feel like they're understood, but also still have a little bit of a nudge or a boot in their behind when it's needed, So it's that delicate dance between being fiery and being water in the presence of, those that I'm coaching and training, and being at peace with it. It's just I'm trying to figure out when not to push and when to push,
Yeah.
And it's an ongoing mastering of myself, and also underlining all that is just exercising surrendering, exercising just the allowance for people to be, but also being a standard of accountability for them, so that they can, start to grab the bull by the horns in life and like really create and manifest power within, so they can create what they want to create outside of themselves, whatever that is, a business, a family, whatever that is. So
I like when you said when to push and when not to push. Like I got that. I understood what you meant by being fiery and water as well. But to put it in another way, in case that that didn't land with some folks, when you said when to push and when not to push, I can totally relate to that.
Yeah.
So why is this epic for you? Why isn't this just like I'll figure it out someday or whatever? Like why would you define this as an epic challenge?
I would say more recently it's been coming up more.
With your clients?
With my clients. It's been happening more so with certain clients, and part of it is actually been because of departure of the relationship, the training relationship with them. So I have several clients that I don't train anymore, and I would say 3 out of the 4 of them I've been kind of coddling them a little bit over the last year and a half, not really being as forthcoming with my feedback, but just kind of like allowing them to be, but still holding some accountability, but not as much as I would really verbally communicate. And it just hasn't sat with me as easily, within myself. So that's why I've been more challenged with it as far as being an epic. And then recently I watched the Tony Robbins documentary on Netflix called I'm Not Your Guru. And the part of that was just like, you know what, I need to reignite that fire a little bit more. I need to add a little bit more fire, a little bit more fuel to the fire.
Yeah.
So that, people can still, understand like, okay, this is the already balanced game, but at the same time, I think sometimes a game can be a little associated with just being lackadaisical, and it's not really, being as responsible and accountable for yourself. Just allowing yourself to just, blame circumstances, blame other people, allow yourself to be the biography. Like the biography is your past, right? It's what you went through as a child. It's the things that you currently had going, college, high school things happen, past injuries, past, maybe a car collision, and that's your whole life, the genetics of your family. And instead of just like saying, let's not use that. Let's not use that. Let's not allow that to define us. Let's allow ourselves to define ourselves for the future.
Mm.
In this moment now, right here, right now. What does that look like? So I've been feeling more of that within me in terms of bringing that approach out more with more intention. And it's sometimes challenging because, people do go through some circumstances that in the moment I'm like, do I need to exercise more compassion, or just like, you just need to get your butt up. You need to get your tail up. And like, I know that someone just died. I know when someone just crashed their car or whatever, but like, okay, part of me wants to say, and there's people who are dying around the world who have nothing to eat. So it's almost like I want to bring some type of element of like, here's some perspective. Here's some perspective for you. What about that?
Yeah.
How about take that into consideration? So, I'm navigating my way through this journey on that, and it could be epic because it's, I want to be compassionate because I used to didn't have a lot of compassion for a lot of people. I wasn't very considerate, but you wouldn't have known that unless you engaged with me. I was very much on my own, independent, and I didn't care too much about the camaraderie of things. I mean, to an extent I was, but so now that I have a little bit more compassion and consideration around people and just how I see myself and them and vice versa, it's that balance, that dance that I'm juggling every day, dancing. So.
Yeah, I hear you, man. It's interesting when you were describing, getting into the details of your challenge. You were essentially describing what I have experienced in the past couple of weeks with one of my sisters. She gave me feedback that I wasn't being compassionate and I wasn't being empathetic to her around a circumstance in her life. And I felt very much the way that you did, not knowing like when someone tells you something, whether to put on the compassionate hat or whether to be like, okay, so what? Get up and keep moving. So I get that.
Yeah. Yeah. And, part of me wants to, explore some other steps in, my client relationship management, so to speak. These are corporate terms there, CRM. So I want to, just talk to them one-on-one and just really get some raw feedback about how they experience me as a person. And then we can get further into that, into like the steps that I'm taking to move through it. So I won't go too much into that part. Yeah.
All right, cool. So if we were to sum back up your epic challenge one more time, share with us what you're going through.
Yeah, so I'm going through trying to figure out what's that balance. How do I find peace in that balance of being compassionate but also being fiery, on both sides of the stick with my clients as it relates to giving them, feedback to help them and to progress their experience and to have a very valuable experience with the personal training and lifestyle coaching that I have. And to really just be able to have a deeper understanding of how to listen and be at peace with those that have this victimness, that have a victim mentality. So how do I find peace in that? And what are some things to help create more peaceful moments in the midst of it?
Got it.
So.
Okay. All right. Awesome, man. Well, with that, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to dive into the feedback and some action steps around your epic challenge. So let's go ahead and take a quick break, and we'll be right back. You've just been listening to someone boldly and honestly share their current epic challenge. But I know right now there is an area in your life in which you are stuck and would like to experience a breakthrough. If that sounds like you, then I'm inviting you to join me on the podcast so that we can explore your epic challenge together. Having been on both sides of epic challenges for almost 3 years now, I know that it takes courage, transparency, and accountability to create a breakthrough. I'm willing to hold a space for you to create a new result if you're willing to step into it. So to nominate yourself to join me on the podcast, just hop over to my website, MatthewBivens.com, click on the tab that says Epic Challenge, and drop me your information. When you experience a breakthrough, we all win. So if you're finally ready to create a new result in your life, then submit your epic challenge today. All right, and we are back. Anthony, thank you so much, man, for describing your epic challenge, which is around just finding balance between showing compassion and showing fire, that push when your clients and the people in your life really just present to you a victim mentality or self-deprecating habits, thoughts, patterns, behaviors, all that stuff. So now what I want to do is I want you to share some feedback that you've received around your Epic Challenge. So have you shared your challenge with your COI accountability group?
Not yet.
Okay.
But I mean, it's not happened yet, but I've shared it with my fiance Erica regarding that, and she's part of my COI. She's one of the other leaders in the COI, and we talked about it. And part of her feedback was this, coming from a therapist standpoint, to just engage in more conversation around how can you understand them a little bit more. How does that look? What does that look like? What does it look? Maybe ask them, how does it look to show up in a way where they feel like they're understood, but they still feel like they can receive the feedback in a way that can be used in a creative way or in an effective way. But we've kind of touched on some things like that, more specific people that we talk about. So yeah. But I'll be getting some feedback from the group probably within the next week or two on our Epic challenges, because I think I'm one or two in the queue in our group to go through their Epic challenge.
Well, I like what you said, when you were talking with Erica, that it's kind of specific, like person to person, like the way that one person's going to receive feedback and receive that fire or that compassion is a little different than the way another person's going to receive it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Had you heard from your clients that you weren't being compassionate?
It's I haven't heard. They haven't directly told me that I'm not being compassionate. Sometimes it's energy that I can feel I can feel the energy in their conversations, but sometimes they may not feel quite as understood. And it may just be a combination of their own projections and things. But no, not directly. So that's the answer on that.
Yeah, because I was thinking in terms of had they come to you and said, "Hey, listen, when you tell me this, it makes me feel this way." But what I'm hearing is that those are the conversations that you want to initiate with them, so that you can better understand how they would like to be not coached, but around the topic of like feedback, how they would like what would be the best way for them to receive feedback.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Especially, if I feel like I'm holding back.
Yeah.
What are some of the things I want to say to them, but I'm also trying to be sensitive to some of the life experiences that we have, some of the things that come up, and understand that we're all creators of our life, and that there'll be some things that we control and a lot of things we can't control.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to really get a handle on expressing that grace, so to speak, having that grace with clients, so they can still feel valuable and still feel like they matter and are a part of this experience in a way where they just feel like what they're putting their time and energy into is worth it.
Yeah, I want to go back to the Tony Robbins documentary that you mentioned, because I watched it as well. I mean, you watched it, and then you were a huge advocate for it, and so Sarah and I went and watched it, and it's called "I Am Not Your Guru" for you out there listening who may not have seen it yet. It's on Netflix, and it's just a powerful powerful documentary of Tony Robbins just doing him. And one of the things that I really liked is that somebody asked him, how do you know what to say in the situations when a person is, presenting their fears or presenting the areas when they're stuck? And Tony just gives them like raw feedback. And he said, It's just intuition. He just flows off intuition. So do you feel like your intuition is being like overridden by your mind, or because you've been a coach for a long time and you've coached many different people, and so in some people I would imagine like how to, like where to go in and when. Other people when to fall back and not go in. So would you say that you are following your intuition, or would you say that you are trying to kind of bring it back a little bit?
I would say kind of bringing it back a little bit more. And at times it's a combination of all three of those things, those scenarios that you talked about. A lot of times there are moments where it is just a download. It's just like in that moment, this is what I can sense based on what I understand about you and what I have in my, what's flowing through me spiritually, And I think a big part of it is just trusting my instinct more. Feeling like I can trust my instinct to say what comes up will be what is needed and what is divinely meant in that moment, in that space and time. So I think it can come down to just trusting that intuition more, and being less attached to what people's responses are to me, because I do understand myself to the extent that whatever I do get feedback around, it does come from a place of love and understanding and compassion. Just I think sometimes I get maybe caught up in the idea of whether or not they are going to accept it or reject it. And I think the conflict is whether or not I trust that the process is flowing as it needs to be, as it will be. Is it as divine order as it will be. So
yeah,
as we're talking about it, I'm starting to kind of jog my mind a little bit and think about it a little bit deeper.
No, absolutely. That's why I love having these conversations, because you and I, we've been in many epic challenges, and we both know that by talking through them and going through them, like you have little aha moments, and your mind, like new channels in your mind open up for you to understand things in a different way. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important that you talked about the attachment to how the other person will respond. Because I know for myself, like if there's something I want to say to someone and it's like my gut is telling me, Matthew, just say it, I totally get wrapped up in how they might respond. Like, are they going to take it personally? Are they going to get their feelings hurt? Yeah. Are they going to get mad? And then many times that causes me to back off.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was kind of like an epic challenge in another experience or manifestation with the whole idea of fear and rejection, and you want to be able to anticipate someone's response being one where they agree with you or see your point, even if they don't like it, but see it. But as I evolve and just become less attached to people's response, I think that I can have more peace in those moments when this type of events happen, or circumstances present themselves. So.
Yeah, totally. And I'm gonna be watching you to see how you step up in that area, because it's something that I'm challenged with as well. And I go back to the documentary because I remember one of the women who talked about a relationship that she was in that she knew was not the best fit for her, but she was just kind of pulling this dude along anyway. And Tony had her break up with him over the phone. I know you remember that. And
yeah, definitely.
At the end, they interviewed her like the next day, and she was like, man, I wish Tony had been more compassionate and given me the softer side of him. But do you remember what she said after that? She was like, I never would have taken action if he wasn't so fiery with me.
Yeah. And you know what? That's he's an example. I'm just spotlight on Tony Robbins. He's an example of someone that had such a high level of mastery of his personal intuition, and spiritual downloads in those moments that he just goes for it with so much confidence, and that is a example of the type of master I am becoming. So, that's really, you know, there was a really remarkable moment in that documentary. I remember that very distinctly. So
Yeah.
That's the type of feedback that would affirm that I'm on track. Like if a client would say, you know what, I probably would have never, and who knows, not to say that clients don't ever say that to themselves, you know, but to hear it directly from them is one thing versus them coming to that conclusion within their own self and not sharing it. So I think I'd also like to hear more feedback from clients as it relates to how I've coached them around things. So I think that's part of it too. Will give me some idea of whether or not my way of like navigating, being compassionate, being fiery is a sustainable balance within the relationships that I have with the current clients I have right now.
Absolutely.
So,
I mean, that sounds like an action, and we'll get into that into part 3. But, you know, if I was to give you feedback, I would say be fucking bold with them, because if you aren't being bold, then you might be holding them back from having a similar breakthrough moment that we both watched in the documentary. Because that woman, you know, she would not have called her boyfriend had Tony Robbins not been bold and been like, do it now, you know, and then who knows what, you know, where things would have happened. So that's just a piece of feedback to you and really to myself as well. But this is your epic challenge we are talking about. Yep. So I did want to jump back and ask you, like, how does your epic challenge make you feel? You know, in the moment when your intuition is like, go in, and you decide to be nice. How does that make you feel inside? Like, what stirs in you?
Yeah, I feel like there's a little bit of feeling like you're on the edge. You know, there's a little bit of like excitement, like you're on the edge. You know, like a little bit of like, you know, a little bit of anxiety, a little bit, because you know you're uncertain. You know, but there might be a little bit of, you know, a low level of fear around what the next moment might be. You know, what responses will be exchanged. You know, the anticipation. There's these feelings of anticipation, like, what are they going to say next? You know, because sometimes I'll say stuff to people and they won't respond, you know, while I'm there directly in front of them, and just kind of have that look on their face, or I'll talk to them while they're exercising so they can process it as they're moving, you know, to kind of get their mind, you know, thinking about it a little bit more effectively. Because, you know, when you exercise, your mind is, you know, you're producing all these juices, you know, it gets your thoughts flowing a little bit more. So that's typically what I feel with that edge, and it's like anticipation, a little bit of anxiety, and a very small level of fear too. So yeah.
And then what about when the moment passes? What about when the opportunity to give feedback presents itself and then passes and you haven't given the feedback? Is there like a, damn, like that was my moment? Is there any sort of like, what thoughts go through your mind in that moment?
Yeah, I have that sometimes. It is that some part of it is that, okay, it'll be shared in divine time. You know, I have this personal quote I say myself that there's no such thing as on time, but divine time. Like, you know what? I never beat myself up around, well, I should have done it this time. It's never going to happen. It's like, okay, next time I'll be more intentional. But then also, on the other side of that coin, I do say, okay, that was the time. This was, you know, so there's a duality in it, you know, when you judge yourself, but also let go of it at the same time. It's kind of like it oscillates back and forth. And at the end of the day, I typically settle on the side of being at peace with it, because, you know, I have a lot of other things that I am part of and engage with. So, you know, I don't allow myself to get too hung up in judging and attached to it. So
I like that, man. I like that you said that there's like a duality that you experience. Like, you judge yourself a little bit, but at the same time, you just let it go. You know, and it might be like a process. It might be like a quick moment of judgment, like, shit, that was my moment. Damn, okay. All right, I got to let it go. And then you just let it go, and then you settle on peace. And I think that's powerful because a lot of folks, who might be experiencing something similar, whether it's, going in on feedback or simply just stepping up to a fear, because you did explain that there was a little bit of fear when the moment presents itself. It's like, where do you go after the moment passes and you haven't stepped up? Because if you keep the judgment and you settle in judgment instead of settling in peace, like that's just, in my opinion, just pulling you further down and further away from actually stepping into that, into your power, into that moment.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so it's something that I'm repping, that I'm slowly, repping more, just repping more peace around, flowing through it. It takes time,
Yeah.
It's in theory, it's easier to say how you would go through it. But in the moment, it's like, we have emotions. We're in these things called relationships with people, and part of our makeup is that we like to connect with people. Most people would probably say that this whole thing about I don't like to hurt people's feelings, and really, technically, you can't hurt anything that isn't already hurt. But then that's one side of it. That's the mind. That's the mind, right? The heart is something different. The heart has a different expression in that way, where you are considerate but also aware at the same time. So it's a juggle. It's not always easy juggling. So
no, absolutely. You said it's like a fine balancing act between those two. And so I think as you rep that intuition, like, you said Tony Robbins is a master of it, and 10,000 hours to mastery. So he's trusted his intuition a lot. So I imagine as you continue to just trust your intuition and be bold with it, you'll be able to walk that line and not feel like you're teetering either way. And so let's progress into the third part of this conversation, third and final part, and let's talk about the actions. So I know that you are planning to present this epic challenge to your weekly accountability group, and I think that in and of itself is a powerful action, because you are going to seek feedback from a group of people that, in a space of trust, in a space of transparency, folks that are just going to give it to you straight. And I think that for you listening, if you are experiencing an area where you're stuck and trying to figure out how to get through it, go seek feedback from people that will tell it to you honestly. And that's what I heard as one of your actions.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely bring this to my COI and get their feedback collectively, and take it all in and let it settle. And one of the other things I'm planning on doing is actually send some emails out to some of my clients and ask them to give me almost like a game day for myself, as far as coaching and training goes. Just give an assessment of where you think I could put some more focus, where you think I'm doing very well at, some areas that you'd like to see, changed, or just some things to look at, some other angles to re-examine. So that's something I want to do more. So I want to do it more consistent. I don't do it that consistently at all. I think I've only really reached out to clients once or twice before over the last 3 years just to get some real general feedback from them. But in this round, I want to be a little bit more specific around what are the things that I want to really get from, like, I really want to capture. So
I think that's definitely powerful. And I wrote down, I was like thinking of actions, and I wrote down a client one-on-one. You're used to doing one-on-ones in BNI. You guys do one-on-ones, and then I know within just the community, you'll sit down and just go hang out with the person one-on-one. So sitting down with the client and, you talked about asking for specific feedback. But when you're with a person one-on-one, I think your opportunity to get even more deep, meaningful feedback is available. So definitely think with some of those clients that have been around for a while that will give it to you straight, just to get that feedback. And I like the fact that 2 of your actions are around seeking feedback, because I think that for me, until I started putting reps in it, receiving feedback was like one of the scariest things in the world to me, and something that I probably avoided at all costs. And
wow.
Yeah, man, like I would just break down on feedback, just simple feedback. So if you're listening and you are like me, then do what Anthony is doing and go and seek feedback from powerful people who are going to just give it to you straight.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also think about, the idea that I think you're your biggest critic.
Yeah, absolutely.
As yourself, so I think some percentage of all of this experience is part of me being more self-critical, to myself, and I think that's just because I do have am connected with people, and I am just human, wanting to always evolve and see how I can sharpen the saw in my life. How can I always constantly be, just evolving, and at the same time also being at peace with it too, so growing. So,
well, there's another balancing act.
It is. Like
that's
not the whole
being
game.
Yeah, it's all balance, man. I had one more piece of one more action suggestion for you, and that's to take the next opportunity that presents itself to give feedback. Give the feedback. Mm-hmm. Just be bold and give the feedback, and work on letting go of how that person takes it or responds.
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned that because I'm actually going to be reaching out to some clients this week for some COI goals in regards to seeking some feedback around coaching, but also once they respond, I'm going to give them some feedback about what is some more raw feedback around things that I feel would help shift the transformation in a way that can really magnify it in a more powerful way. So it's ironically you say that, I'm like, I've been thinking about that, putting that out there to do that. So
what I would love to do is to follow up with you maybe in a couple weeks.
Okay.
Once you've presented your epic challenge in your COI group and you've gotten the feedback from them, and then once you've taken that bold action and given the raw feedback to your clients, I would love to follow up with you to see kind of where your epic challenge is at that point. Also to hear, what your group tells you, like the types of things that your group tells you, because again, man, I think your epic challenge is very relatable, especially when it comes down to, like, when we boil it down to fear and choosing to step into the fear or back away from it. Because I know there's relationships, family, like things come up where you want to speak your mind, or you want to give advice, or you want to just state your opinion, but we can tend to shrink back. So, your epic challenge is incredibly relatable, and therefore how you handle your challenge and how you step into it is going to be very powerful for us. So I'm excited to follow up with you.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I would definitely love that. It'd be awesome.
Wonderful, dude. Well, thank you so much for just being on it, like bold, honest, transparent, and sharing your current challenge. I think that those listening, I know myself included, got a lot out of it. And like I said, I'm excited to follow up with you. But just from this, 40-minute conversation, I'm picturing in my mind opportunities for myself to step into just stating what it is that I truly feel from a place of love, but also with courage. So thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you.
Awesome. Thank you, man. Thank you for having me. Thanks for the conversation.
2 quick things before you leave. First, did you know that the Having It All podcast is a part of the Fireside Network? Yep, we are one of the esteemed shows that calls Fireside Network home. That means if you ever want to listen to a show outside of iTunes or Stitcher or whatever your favorite podcasting app is, all you need to do is visit firesidenetwork.com and under shows, select Having It All. From there, you can access all the episodes, see the show notes, learn about my guests, and more. Second, I am very excited to announce that my brand new website is live. Visit MatthewBivens.com and you can learn more about me, get plugged into an accountability group, and pick up some free content like the Abundance Benchmark. I am all about helping you not only identify what your ideal life looks like, but also helping you on your journey towards it. I want you to experience more abundance and love in your life. So, again, you can find out more information about all of that great stuff at MatthewBivens.com. Thank you once more for listening to the show, and here is to you having it all.